I am so looking forward to today's chat with my gorgeous friend, Kate Halfpenny. Kate is just the gift from last year that I wasn't expecting. She's just such a beautiful person, and I'm so excited to have her in my life. And I hope you don't mind me saying this, Kate, but you're a little bit like Reese peanut butter cups for me. That and the reason being, like, my life was great before I had my first peanut butter cup, but when I had my first one, it just became so much richer and sweeter and just so delicious. So you're my Reese peanut butter cup of my life. We've only known each other for less than a year. We met through our mutual friend Tori. I don't know if you remember, but at that luncheon, and you and there was probably 20 or 30 women it was a virtual lunch, and there was probably 20 or 30 women, and you just stood out for me. And I remember you messaged me through that catch up, and we were like, almost like little bits of naughty schoolgirls messaging in the background. And it's just been so beautiful, and I could go on forever and ever, but I want our guests to meet you. So welcome, Kate.
Oh, Catherine, is this how you usually welcome your guests, by making them feel a bit teary? Because it's a good tactic, isn't it, to take someone off guard, and you've achieved it, you skillful interviewer, you. Thank you so much. I am so thrilled to be your Reese's peanut butter cup. That makes you my Cadbury peppermint dairy milk, I have to say.
Yay.
Yes, that's the equivalent.
Yes.
You are absolutely beautiful. I'm so thrilled to be doing this chat with you today. And, of course, that little story about how we met, like, I think I reached out to you first of all because I was looking at all the faces like the Brady Bunch, set up on the screen, and I thought, who is that woman with that incredible hair and that enormous, fantastic smile? And you just look like the coolest kid going around. Which I think is what I said to you on the chat.
You did.
Who are you? It's been so lovely getting to know you over the last, I want to say, like 10 months. But it feels
I can't really. I certainly know that it's not been a year. It's not been a full year.
No.
But it feels like, for me, when we caught up, so we had that luncheon, and then we had a coffee catch up. You're in Victoria. I'm in Canberra. So we did an online coffee catch up, and for me that just felt like catching up with an old girlfriend that I've been forever, and it was just beautiful. That was so cool.
And then, of course, it led to a meeting at an airport hotel in Canberra when I flew out to have my Botox done.
Yes.
And it was like a sort of secret squirrel hot date where we literally met at the bar at an airport hotel to say hi. And I was really nervous, thinking, am I going to like you as much in real life as I do virtually and on the phone? And I didn't. So it was a disappointment. Of course I did. I went home feeling and looking, well, I looked a bit bashed up with my Frankenstein bruises from the fresh Botox, but I felt really great inside.
You look gorgeous. Yeah, Thanks. No, you look gorgeous. That was good. And we've met since then again in person. And I do want to just do a shout out. Henry, my son Henry, moved to Melbourne at the beginning of this year, and you and Sadie, your daughter, was so beautiful that Sadie was helped Henry to settle into Melbourne, and you helped me to settle into my baby moving away from home. And that was just was just so reassuring, because we're empty nesters. John and I are empty nesters now. Are you an empty nester?
I am. And so I think that was part of why I wanted to, support you at that time, because for me, empty nesting was so much harder than I thought it was going to be. We hear a lot about how it's an incredible experience. You get your life back and you get your time back, and it's just you and your partner, or it's just you and your books, whatever it looks like. But for me, in reality, it was really devastating, Catherine. I felt like a rat was eating my heart, and that I was going to have to go to hospital. I felt so devastated, and not much is said around that. There's not much information for parents at that time in life, and you feel a bit churlish saying, I don't really want this. I wanted to the clock back 10 years. You feel it's as if you're ungrateful for it. Yeah, so it's kind of hard to say it.
I found it very, because I've got 2 kids, and Ellie is my eldest, and she'd moved out of home and was with her partner, Nikki. They'd moved out of home. They were moving away, I think, a week after Henry was moving to Melbourne. And Henry had been living at home before he moved to Melbourne. He'd sort of been in and out of home. But exactly when you said it feels like a rat eating your heart, it was just this, I want my kids to be with me forever, even though I don't. But it was just this whole, I was sad. I was just really, really gut-wrenchingly sad. And still, God, I try and get through without crying. But anyway, we're coming to Melbourne. We're coming to Melbourne to visit Henry, and Elle's up visiting now. So it's beautiful. It's a different dynamic. Yeah.
It is, but it is one of those changes that catches you by surprise. There's others during our life that have big red signposts that go with them. So we expect perimenopause, we expect death, we expect disaster. But that empty nest thing, it's sold to us as being something incredible. And you know what, it is. It really is. Yes. But there is definitely a melancholy feeling that goes with it, whether it is, wow, where did all that time go? I have 3 who are all in their 20s. But their dad and I always said to them, well, we moved out of home at 18. It was the best fun we ever had. You should do it too. And, of course, they all did, which was the heartbreaking part about it. They all sort of packed up and left, and we have had them coming back in, as they do. They come back poor from overseas, or they've had a heartbreak, or they're between rentals, or whatever it is. Yeah. So they do pop back in. But, on the whole, the acceptance is now that part of your life is finished. And I think for me, the big change there, and I'd love to hear what it was like for you, was really, and I don't mean this to sound poor me, it was really like, what is my role now? Because,
absolutely,
even though I had I'd had good jobs while the kids were growing up, like I was always a professional working mum, I think that work was my hobby, really.
Yeah.
With no disrespect to my beautiful employers that I've had, but it felt like the real job was raising the children and raising the family. And once that was gone, it was like, who am I? Yeah. What do I do? And that sort of coincided for me with a odd professional period as well. So it was that double turmoil. So did you feel that? You felt that?
Absolutely, yeah. With my kids, I was very, very conscious about raising independent kids. Like, I've been very conscious. And Elle, I think she was 14, maybe 15. She wanted to go on a student exchange to Italy. And I know she might have been about 12. And I'm going, I think you're a little bit too young for that. But she went when she was 15 and she lived overseas. And I remember girlfriends of mine said, how can you let her go? I'm going, how could I not? This is just such a beautiful experience. So I've been very conscious about raising independent kids. But far out, Kate, like when they're independent, it's like, it's like, I wish I didn't. There's a part of me, I really, and that establishing what is my role in parenting you now, like they're adults, they're peers. I'm still their mum, but it's a different relationship. And I think I'm still navigating that, in all honesty. I really think I'm still navigating that.
So how does that look for you then? I mean, I'm not one of these women who think that I am my children's best friend. No. I've always shied away from that. No. Although certainly when they were younger, like I that was not my parenting style at all.
No.
I had really clear boundaries. We actually never had rules in my house growing up. There was just sort of expected codes of behaviour that they were to follow. Yes. So I wasn't a dictatorial parent, but I really had firm boundaries and they knew how to behave.
Same.
So now, I see them as, it's more than friends. It's better than friends, but it's not friends. I'm still there, I hope, to guide them.
Yes.
Although God knows I've made so many mistakes. But you know what? I hope
I've made none. We'll do that. We'll get on to that next. Actually, I do want to ask you that.
But yeah, you know what? I hope that that's what they're looking for. They're looking at the missteps and seeing them as learning experiences and also something that you can recover from. You know, it's about resilience, I suppose.
Yeah.
And trying not to fuck up next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, when you said, what does that look like? I'm conscious about boundaries, and I don't get involved. I'm certainly there as a sounding board. I don't tell them what to do. I've never told them what to do. And I'm just conscious about, sharing pearls of wisdom, but letting them live their own lives. I don't interfere. I don't interfere or meddle. Or I don't think I do.
Yeah, see, I have to really hold back on my meddling because I'm one of those, I'm the natural Mrs. Mangle who wants to say, do this, do that. This is how it really would be better if you just listened to me.
Yeah.
But I've had to, Jack's he's 29. So 29 years of parenting has taught me that does not work. And, it's not just with kids, it's with everybody. A couple of years ago, I learned that you should never, ever give life advice. Like, that's not what you're here to do. It's more about just that whole giving support and whatever. So I've had to rein in my natural tendencies. I mean, the kids, one in particular, my middle son, Felix, rings me a lot. He was the kid who, growing up, would often say to me, you know nothing, you don't know anything, you don't understand anything. And now he's my beautiful joy of my heart who rings me a lot. Should I buy a stick vacuum cleaner?
Nice.
Where is the best place to buy blah, blah, blah.
Nice.
What should I do about this? Yeah. And so I really love it. If they seek out advice and they actively flag it, can I get some other advice? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no, I'm here to mix the cocktails and make the dinner and change the linen and welcome you. Yes.
Oh, you're a good mum. I want to talk to you about some of the other changes that you've made in life, but what's your I don't know, your parenting mistake? What's the funniest thing about being a parent for you? Because I've got one memory in my mind.
Oh, you tell me yours first, and then that will jog.
Okay. There's just this scene that when the kids were at school, I used to drop them off to school, and Henry was in year 1, and they had to learn the violin, and he had his violin in the car, and he was taking forever. And Elle was out of the car going, "Hurry up, Henry, hurry up." And I was just in a rush. I'm always in a rush. So I was trying to close the car door, and it wouldn't close. And I kept going, why won't this door close? And it was Elliot's head that she had through the door that she's going, hurry up, Henry. And I was crushing her head in the car door.
Your face, I don't know why I'm laughing. Actually, I have to laugh now.
But then the poor little thing, like, not just that I was crushing her head in the door, but this boy that she had a crush on was walking past at the time, and she was too worried to say, Mum, stop doing that, because she didn't want to do it. And I just feel that's just one of those stories. And I'm so sorry, Ellie, I've said that to 100 times. But I've got a list. I won't go on forever, but I've got a list of bad parenting.
Was her head damaged?
Oh, she had to take the day off school. She had bad headaches for a while. Actually, she did have migraines.
Oh, Lord, was it? I hope it wasn't a people mover where you were doing that giant.
No, it wasn't cut. It wasn't cut or anything. It was just like wedged in the door.
All right. See, mine was Jack's school ringing me, my eldest son ringing me one day. My kids were always, Catherine, falling over and breaking limbs, at handball. Oh, yeah, they've had many broken legs, the broken arm where the arm was hanging down like a pencil with bones coming out, shoulder blades, collarbones, appendicitis, stacks of stuff, like over 22 surgeries between 3 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, like traumatic. Anyway, I used to get sick of it. So the Jack school rang me one day and said he's in sick bay and he says to tell you he's done something to his knee. And I just said, can you tell him back? I've had it up to pussy's bow with my really weak children falling over. I'm not interested. And they're like, Kate, you've got to come. I said, no, he can get on the train at the end of the day. I'm sure he'll be fine by then. He came home and he was hobbling and Mum, it really hurts. I just said, nah, sympathy, run out. I can tell it's not broken because I could, by then I could tell if they had a break because they used to fountain sweat and I could have looked like a dead fish on by the it's been out. Yeah, anyway. He didn't look like that. It's not broken.
Yeah.
He hobbled around for months complaining about it. Anyway. Yeah. Nothing was done. Finally, Felix, when we go back to, he legitimately had a broken arm that needed 4 hours of surgery for this massive corkscrew break. When I took him back for his checkup with the orthopaedic surgeon, Jack came with me, and the surgeon watches Jack hobbles in and says, Jack, what's wrong with your knee? And I go, nothing. Do not indulge him. Adrian, don't. There's nothing wrong with his knee. So he feels around, and I'll never forget, he looked over his shoulder at me. He goes, Kate, this knee's stuffed. I was like, what? Anyway, Jack did have to have surgery. He had to have 30% of his cartilage cut out because of all the damage incurred by bad mother not listening to him at all. So that was a really long story, but the message is, if your kid says there's something wrong, I've
got the same, just another quick one with Ellie. She was playing netball and she was at rep netball level and she was complaining about her knees and she wanted to come off win one of the games. And I said, Elle, you can't, you have to keep playing. And she just stormed off and I said, that's not okay. That's really not good sportsmanship. And she'd been complaining about her knee for ages. She had to have knee reconstruction. Like I said, you get back on and you play. And this went on, same sort of thing. It's just like, don't be soft, knee reconstruction.
Okay. See, what does that say about us? What does it say? I mean, also in our children's bad knees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that a coincidence? All right. That we've got that. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So it's funny. Oh gosh, we could talk for ages, but I won't talk for ages about that. Tell me, you've made some big changes in your life recently. So over the last, few years, what have some of those changes been?
Yeah, so in 2020, I mean, we all had a pretty bad year then.
Yeah.
We really did, and I'm certainly not claiming that mine was any worse than anyone else, but I made a really bad job choice, for the first time in, I started working in 85, fresh from school. So we're talking a long time. I think it was, 37 years of a pretty blameless, blemish-free, successful career.
Yeah.
Made a really bad job choice, and it was, I actually can't go into details because I will burst into tears, but suffice to say it was a job where every day a giant bell would ring maybe 4 or 5 times a day, and you would have to stop what you were doing and dance on command, like a trained bear. And they said it was to celebrate people, whereas for me it was just to humiliate people.
Oh God. It
was that was just a tiny example of the powerlessness of the job and of the organisation, that created anxiety and humiliation in its employees. But I had to sit it out for a while because it was COVID. We were living in Victoria. There were lockdowns.
Yes.
I am at my age. I'm 55. I work in media. There were not a ton of jobs just waiting to be taken at that time. I'd been divorced, so I had a huge mortgage, and I really needed to keep working until I didn't. There just came a morning where I woke up and thought, I'm really going to have a full-blown nervous breakdown here, and I don't know if I will be coming back from it.
Wow.
It was really, really horrific.
I can feel that.
The combination of this awful job and the isolation of the lockdowns, and again, lots of people were going through bad times. I don't claim that I was special, but in my head, I needed to leave that job. So I did, in the middle of a pandemic. I remember waking up and saying to my husband, we're going to leave Melbourne. I need to get out of here. I need to move down by the beach. Like the sea has always been my happy thing. I'm a pretty poor swimmer, but give me a boogie board and a bit of a 2-meter swell, and I can mix it with anyone. Oh, wow. So he was amazing. He did not even say, really, should we talk about it? He pretty much just said, great. And we ended up selling our beautiful place in Collingwood, which is in inner Melbourne, in 10 days in the pandemic.
Wow.
Which was incredible. You know, this was when, you know, Dire Straits, which is fantastic, bought a place down at the beach outside Geelong a week after that and moved down here. So, you know, city girl pretty much my whole life, and suddenly I am living in a little coastal town. Although I should say I did grow up in Tassie by the beach. My parents used to own a hotel motel in a fishing village on the east coast of Tassie when I was growing up. But, you know, I had lived in Melbourne again since I was 15. But I think there was a part of me that always wanted to go back to that quieter life, not have a job. So for the first time since 1985, I did not have a full-time job. I wasn't living in the city. I didn't have kids with me. So there were a lot of changes.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What got you, so the job was not great. So you got to a point where you went, you know what, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. And do you remember that sort of decision-making for you? What got you through that?
It was really interesting. I talked with a coach about it, and you know, I'm someone who doesn't meditate, is bored by yoga, you know, all of that stuff. I don't do rituals, none of that sort of stuff. That traditional idea of wellness isn't my idea. My idea is running and the boogie boarding and reading and chocolate. You know, that's what works for me. Yeah, perfect. So it was a bit woo-woo even seeing a coach, but I thought, you know, why not? And he said to me, look, what you need to do is write down. Do not drink before you do it, and you can't type it out. It's got to be handwritten. Write down what you want your life to look like. Nothing is too big. Nothing is too small. You know, I want you to, and I said, that just sounds so dicky, you know, like I'm in grade 5 with my pink glitter pen, like, dear diary, this is what I would like, a puppy. It just sounded really idiotic. But I did it. You know, I paid him for his advice, so I thought I'm going to take it.
I'll do it,
Yeah, so I sat down and, you know, I really remember the first thing I wrote, which was we were living in Collingwood. We had a 3-story beautiful apartment, which was, you know, built out the back of an old 30s warehouse. So it was pretty spectacular. But the first thing that came to mind was I want a single-story house for my old dog. And once I had that fixed, everything just sort of flowed from there.
Lovely.
And Catherine, I ended up sitting there for an hour, like writing over 3 closely written pages. Nothing was too big or too small. I wanted to see my parents, you know, not just on weekends. I wanted to see them on weekdays instead of having to put aside that special time on the weekend to visit them. You know, it was hilarious. Have better hair. You know, don't buy shoes for a year. Yeah. You know, it was really interesting what came up. And at the end of that, I went back to the coach and said, do you want to hear it? And he said, oh, God, no. I never need to see it. That's not the point of it. No. I don't need to mark your work. The point is now you've got it. You know what you want. Now go and make it happen. Yeah. And it was like, but I've got a house in the city. My husband works in Melbourne, you know, and he said, well, do you want this life or not? Like, it is on you. Do you actually want to take action? Yeah. Do you want it to be a reality? Or are you just going to be another one of those people with the bullshit dreams? I would like to do this. I would like to do that. He said, seriously, this is your life. Like, if you want it to happen, go make it happen. He was amazing. It was just
love.
Yes, it was fantastic. So suddenly I was doing all of the things that were on my list. And it's funny, you know, if my life was a museum, that would be Exhibit A, you know, these 3 pages that I wrote that formed the basis of the life that I wanted. And, you know, it was a huge lesson for me, Catherine, where I realised that, you know, a lot of us have in mind what we want. Yeah. But we don't go get it. You know, it just sits there as a pipe dream where we say, oh, but the kids need to do that, or I've got responsibilities, or blah, blah, blah. And it was really exciting for me to think, I can have it. I can have what I want. And it hasn't been perfect. There's lots of things that, you know, that haven't worked out brilliantly. Like, I love it a lot more than my husband does. I think he misses the city. Yeah. But it's not forever. You know, like, it's a really lovely stage, and I've got an apple tree, and I'm 2 minutes from my favourite beach, and my dog has never been happier. So, you know, there's a lot of good stuff that's happened.
You know what? There's so many powerful bits in there. Probably the most powerful is that you thought the coach was okay. being a coach myself.
I can recommend.
Yeah. But the advice, and I'm with you, that a lot of people have, but I can't do it because, but I'd love to do, but. And what I also find is that a lot of people don't even know what they want in life. They don't even take that time to think about what life could be like.
You know what? That is absolutely right. And, I think maybe you and I have discussed this before, but, that realization is so powerful, because how can you get what you want if you don't know what you want?
Yeah.
We somehow think that magically our life is going to unspool this preordained way, and it's all going to be wonderful, and we'll cope with the bits that aren't. But it's not. I've learned that in my 50s.
Yeah.
That is not how it works. I didn't want to turn around at 70 and say, oh, actually, I didn't want to live in the city forever, or whatever it was. So you are exactly right. It's funny. We seem to think, sorry, I'll be finishing in a minute.
No, you're good.
We seem to think it's money that we need to be saving and protecting. We're all saving our super. We're all investing, whatever we want. We think that money is the important factor as we get older, but for me, it isn't. It's actually, it's time. Time is the most precious thing that we have.
Yeah.
And once that's gone, we can't get it back. We can make more money. We can't get more time. And so for me, it was wanting to know what I wanted and then chase it.
Yeah. And do you know what, when you say about time, for me, it's also about health. Because if we don't have our health, we can have all the money in the world, we can have all the time in the world, but we're going to be not doing anything with it. And I've, Mum passed away when she was young. My dad's recently passed away, and he didn't have good health for the last maybe 20 years. And I'm very, very conscious, and I know you are as well, about that health and wellness of looking after this vessel that we're in so we can make the most of life. So
how does that look for you? What do you do every day, every week to...
I have a very, and I don't want to say strict, but I do have a morning ritual where I exercise, I move my body, and I must admit the last maybe a couple of months I haven't been as much, and I really...
My dog out. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Kate's just got her gorgeous dog Maggie.
Yes, my old Grohl. Yes, 13 this week. Sorry, you have your ritual.
Oh yeah, so in the morning it's about movement, and I was just saying the last couple of months I haven't been rowing as much, and I haven't been walking, so I'm starting that. But I do a lot of mindset work, and it's about visualizing what my life is like what my goals are. And when you were saying that you saw your coach who got you to write stuff down, for those of you that are listening, I've got my this is my vision book that I've looked at, is probably about 15 or so years old, and it's just got images of what I want my life to be like. And this is the next one about the moving down the coast. So I'm very envious, Kate, of your sea change, but mine's in the pipeline as well. So I have visual representation, and I do actually think about what I want my life to be like and what I want myself to be like. And it's also about lots of gratitude, so for me it's mindset, it's body as well, and health. I'm very conscious about, even Reese peanut butter cups are good for you, but I'm very conscious about what I put into my body, and that's not just food and drink, but it's also about messages and stuff like that, energy around it. So I don't know, what's it look like for you? What's your health, wellness, preparing for the future look like?
Yeah, well, I am like you. I'm playing the long game, and you actually once said to me when we were having a conversation about happiness, because that's something that you and I both have a real interest in and our own sort of formula for. And I remember you saying, look, there will be another chapter, but it might be 3 chapters or 4 chapters ahead in the book. You know, like, don't expect that you can get everything that you want immediately. You know, like, that's not how it works. But that's not to say that you can't work towards it, and it's 3 chapters away. And I loved it when you said that, because, that is pretty much what I do. I remember, have I always been pretty healthy? No, I probably haven't.
I haven't.
No, I probably haven't. When the kids were younger, I used to do a morning walk 5 days a week with a girlfriend and thought that was pretty good, and it was. We used to have a really great debrief, but nothing sort of more than that. And then as the kids got older, I remember Jack's 15th birthday photo where we were all standing in front of the rabbit hutch for some reason, an odd choice of backdrop. But I remember getting that photo and thinking, oh, my hair looked really good, but my arms looked really fat. And it was a funny sort of awakening moment for me, where it was like, what? It was that weird moment. And I joined a gym next week and, have been going ever since. So that's nearly 15 years.
Yeah.
I do gym 5 mornings a week.
Oh, wow. Good.
Yeah. I love, well, that's my meditation.
Yes.
And for me, it's not because I love it. I mean, I get obsessed by it. I don't love it, and I don't love running, but I make myself run.
Yeah.
I don't love it, but for me now, the benefits are that the goal is that I'm around for another 30 years of really good health.
Yes.
Of really good health. I don't want it to be mediocre health. I don't want, I want to be bursting with rude health when I'm a grandmother.
Same.
Yes.
Same.
Yeah, so for me, it is just about protecting my body. Plus, I love my body. I absolutely love it. There is nothing about it that I don't worship. I would never, ever, ever say, I hate my stomach, or I hate this, or I hate that. Yeah, God knows my stomach is, it's got that little sort of 3 cesarean baby shelf on it. I've got saggy boobs, even though I've had them rebuilt. I've still got sort of tubby arms. It's not about that. Like, I don't care. Really, the visuals are unimportant for me.
Yeah.
It's the fact that this body has made 3 children. It's carried me through life for 55 years. It's fed children. It's still going strong. I want to value and treasure it. So
I love that so much.
Well, it's just what it is. So for me, it looks like I exercise to keep it fit, not to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And I adore my body. So whatever it wants, and if that is Cadbury peppermint chocolate, oh my God, I give that to it. If it just wants salmon 5 nights a week, that's what it has. Whatever it looks like, I really, really listen to my body. And it's funny that we're chatting today when I actually have COVID. I finally have COVID.
Yeah.
And, we were discussing yesterday whether or not we would still do this.
Yeah.
And I said to you, I feel really great. The only thing is that I feel tired. And so even though I don't have any other symptoms other than a bit of tiredness, I took yesterday off and lay down and did some tapestry, just thinking, all right, my body's telling me something, I'm going to listen to it, instead of that whole, no, I'm going to brush through it, it's going to be fine. So for me, it is about worshipping my body and giving it what it wants.
I love, Kate, because my story's different to that. I have had body image, put on a lot of weight. Every diet I've tried it. You look up in the dictionary emotional eating and you'd see my name there. And a lot of it has been about that visual of the body and not liking my body. And I think it's probably only been the last, I couldn't even put, maybe 5-ish years, and I'm 55, we're the same. Oh, actually, I think I'm 56. I'm not sure. Or maybe I'm 40. I don't know. But it's only been in the recent years that I could say I do actually love my body. But there's still bits, and I say that with hesitation. You say it with confidence. I and there was and when we were chatting yesterday, when you said that you had COVID, and you said, I'm really honouring my recovery because we don't know what this virus does to us long term, and I'm really making sure that I spend time to recover well. And I just loved hearing that, because there are so many people that I meet who are still, online has been great for us because it's opened up a lot of opportunities, but it's also been a real curse because people are sick, but they're still showing up. There's this expectation that they have to show up and work instead of recover. So I loved you saying that yesterday. And, you know, we made that pact that if you weren't well this morning, that we would reschedule. And I'm so glad that we're
talked about wearing our jammies. Yeah, see, I'm
yeah.
so, when I hear that about you and your body image, like, I get it, and it hurts my heart, you know, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And I understand that my experience in saying I love my body is unusual, especially for women.
I love hearing it. I love hearing it.
But I accept that it's unusual, and I don't mean to sort of crow over that and say, look how evolved I am, that I can say that. You know, I was the tubby girl, certainly until maybe I was 20, you know, and I never sort of look at my body and think it's anything other than serviceable. But that's what I want it to be. I don't need it to be thin. I don't need it to be sexy. I don't need it to be anything other than really serviceable and useful and practical. And that's why I love it, because it just doesn't let me down. So when I say that, I love the usefulness of it. It's like a really great pair of scissors or something like that that you know are always going to be reliable. And that's why I look after it as much as I can and listen to it. But yeah, anyone who is listening who does have those body image problems, you know, I hear you and I get you, and I understand how difficult it is when we are held up to unrealistic standards of beauty our whole life. You know, I used to work for over 20 years at Who magazine, which was the best job I ever had. It was incredible. But, you know, I've seen how much effort goes into airbrushing stunning models and superstars. I've seen that they take, you know, 12 hours of airbrushing to get them cover ready. You know, most people don't see that. Those people don't look fantastic without a whole lot of work, a whole lot of airbrushing and a whole team of people behind them. So it's
But do you know what I find, Kate? I really love, and you've said this, something that stood out for me, you know, a number of times when we chat, is that you have that healthy self-esteem, like that you when you talk about your body. I find that really inspiring to hear you say that, because often when we're around people that are speaking negatively about themselves, that's not cool either. Like I get why people do it, but I think that if we can shift that, the way we look at things, change the perspective. And there was a couple of conversations. You know, Kate is a super duper journalist and is extraordinary at what she does. And when we were talking, I can't even remember the conversation, but you owned that. You were just like, yeah, I'm good at what I do. And I loved hearing it, because we often don't hear people saying that about themselves either. And I think that's also been part of my journey, is that not owning my gifts or not acknowledging. And there are things that when I look in, I just get so much inspiration from you, because you But it is, and it's beautiful for people to hear that too, and not to just hear the buts.
Well, again, and that's not because I'm trying to pump up my fires,
not at all.
You know, like for me, I think certainly in Australia, remember when you were little and kids would say, oh, you love yourself. And that was like one of the worst things they could say to you, along with, oh, your egg sandwiches stink, or whatever it was, you know, like you couldn't possibly love yourself, or it you know, it was a bad thing. And I absolutely grew up with that. But no, I do. I do love myself.
I love it.
I mean, it starts with us. If we don't love ourselves, then how does that make us lovable for other people?
Exactly.
And I am good at what I do, and I was really good at breastfeeding. They're like I can read, I can write, and I can just breastfeed the hell out of breastfeeding. They were my sort of life achievements. But I think that you do have to have that confidence. I mean, have you, Catherine, ever summered in been to Italy or to Greece in summer? Okay, well, see, for me, that is just so inspirational when you go to Positano or wherever and you have looked down at yourself that morning and thought, oh, I've put on 3 kilos on this trip. Do my bathers still fit? And you feel a bit self-conscious, and you get down there and there's all the nonnas who are sitting by the water in their bikinis. There is no one piece going on. No. They're all in their bikinis and they're eating gelati by the water. They are, you know,
laughing.
Picnics going on. They are laughing. They're sitting with all their mates. There is absolutely no sort of self-consciousness about their bodies other than isn't life incredible. And I find I first went to Europe in 88 when I was 20 or 21, and I've been back since, and every time I go to a beach just so I can soak up the lessons of those beautiful European women who are just have so much it's just confidence that their body is doing a job, and I'm gonna wear a bikini if I want to. I'm not going to be self-conscious about it. My mum is 44 kilos. She's the tiniest little woman you've ever seen, and she is constantly going on. I say, let's go on a holiday. I couldn't possibly put bathers on. I'm too fat for that. So I grew up with a mum who was very much the opposite that I am. And maybe that's why I'm, maybe that's why. Yeah, I will be in a bikini. And in fact, it's in my list of funeral instructions that I am buried in my favourite black sea folly bikini. Very sad for the, for the undertaker who has to prepare me, because I hope I'll be 95 at that stage. But yeah, I'm going out in my favourite black bikini because it says much more about who I am than any sort of dignified dress.
Love that. I love that. I haven't thought about my funeral instructions, but I reckon I'm aiming for 96, and I'll be in a nursing home doing the line dancing session, and I'm just going to drop over while I'm dancing.
I'm coming to your nursing home because I will be doing that with you. Can't we make our children look after us and they can run the line dancing classes for us?
Well, we've
put in a lot of time with those kids.
I've got an image though of the line dancing instructor that I'm going to be dropping in front of.
I wasn't sure what you were going to say then about the line dancing instructor.
That's right.
But you're going to pash him behind the kitchen edge.
Maybe. Sorry, John, I hope you're not listening to this one. Maybe he's the line dancing instructor. Maybe he's the line dancing. He'll be 100.
Do you know what? That sounds unreal. And then we can segue into a bit of the nutbush.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Maybe that. Gorgeous. This is kind of brought us to the end of our chat. And before we close, what's next for you? What's future Kate look like?
Oh, future Kate. That's such a great question. I'm not sure, I started my business last year and it's going really well, but I'm still not quite sure what I want to be when I grow up. I'm still sort of tossing that up. Is this what I want to do, or is there some way that I can actually add more value to the world? Because, my job so far feels very much like it's been about entertaining people rather than actually providing anything useful. And again, I'm not going to go, I don't know that it has. So I think that I'm looking for something a bit more meaningful. Okay. So I think that's what it is, whatever that looks like.
Maybe what you could do is get your notebook out and just start thinking about what that could look like. Do you know what I do, just in closing, is get people to think about how do they want to feel in the different stages, areas of life. So not necessarily looking at I'm going to be a blah or I'm going to do, but how do I want to feel? Because sometimes when we get really focused on the what, it's not really, doesn't bring about the joy that we want to experience. So if you want to feel a certain way, then the universe will often present us with things, and sometimes we expect those and sometimes we don't, and it probably doesn't really matter, because if we've got those feelings, then life's pretty good.
See, I love that. And it's times like these where I remember, that's right, she's a really great coach, because I always see you as this beautiful friend that I can blah, blah, blah about. Bitch about whatever we want to talk about, and I love your makeup, tell me what it is, all that stuff. So you take me by surprise. Sometimes I think, that is right, she's an excellent excellent coach.
But that's
okay. No, Gina, Catherine, that makes perfect sense, and I think that's what I mean when I say that I want it to be something useful. I've got that sort of feeling, but I can't quite solidify it yet. It's like a sort of a ghostly thing that's floating around.
And just let it unfold. I think if you try and force that sort of stuff, then you're forcing something that's probably not going to give you what you want in the end. So just trust and let that unfold. And that's part of it, to get those little feelings, those feelings, the senses, there might be little images you get or synchronicities that you bump into somebody and they mention something and you go, actually, that feels good. to me, it's about when it feels good. That's a signal for me to go, yeah, I'll put a little bit more effort into.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how you're addressing your future happiness,
Absolutely.
which is what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
For me, it's about how do I want to feel? And I sort of divide my life up into different areas, like my work. So I'm still working. I probably will be working while I'm still line dancing with that guy in the nursing home.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. My family, my friends, my contribution, spirituality is a big thing for me as well. So my connection with my higher self and source, and my money and stuff that I have. So I think about how do I want to feel in each of those areas, and what am I going to commit to doing so I can have those feelings, and what am I going to commit to not doing? So it's almost like a bit of in all honesty, Kate, it's like my terms and conditions for life, and what do I want it to be like, and how do I want to feel, and what will I do? So when I think about my health and well-being, that I am very conscious to move and to be active, and that I won't put pressure on myself if I don't get out and exercise one day. I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm not going to say those shitty things to myself that I used to say, oh, you're no good because you can't even, you said you're going to do it and you can't stick to it. It's just like, well, do you know what? Today, that's okay. And so it's kind of shifting that. There's a lot of habits, I think, that I've created over the years that have helped me to sort of keep in that, keep on track with things. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, cool. All right, beautiful. I think we'll bring this to a close, but I'm so, oh gosh, where can people find you? Where can people find you?
Oh, they can find me at www.badmothermedia.com.
Yeah, beautiful. And Instagram, if they're looking for you on Instagram, that's Bad Mother Media, which I love.
Yeah, Bad Mother Media or Kate Halfpenny.
Kate Halfpenny.
Yes, both accounts. I'm a really bad social media poster, which is ironic given my industry. But yes, I write a column every week for The Age in the Sydney Morning Herald, and I write a lot about my life in that. Yeah. And so by the end of it, I kind of feel I don't really want to.
No, I get that.
Yeah, it's a funny situation. Yeah, it's one of those things I need to get better at.
Or not. I think when you put I need to do something, I'm not sure that's what. I don't like that word need or should.
Are you coaching me again?
No, not at all.
Do you know what? You're exactly right. Goodbye, my beautiful friend.
Love and you.
Everyone, thanks for
Love
listening.
you. Thank you so much for that.
Love you too.
Yeah. See ya.
Yeah.
So here we are for a bit of bonus goodness with Kate, and I'm just going to fire some questions at her. You asked me this question, Kate, when you were interviewing me once, but what does happiness mean to you?
What
brings you joy? What
brings me joy? A lot of stuff. Reading, of course. Yes. Yeah. Salt water. My life philosophy is actually that salt water heals all ills, whether it's the ocean, whether it's tears, or whether it's sweat. And that's sort of what I live by. But I also think that happiness is not focusing on yourself. There's a lot around me time at the moment. We hear a lot about professional women, the juggle is real or the struggle is real, all of that stuff. And I get it because I've lived through it. But for me, my great happiness was always when my kids were small and I was busy with them and I was concentrating on other people rather than myself. So that is where my great happiness comes from. It's not lying in the bath with candles. It's not that. It's actually, it's actually being actively fabulous in other people's lives.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, do you think we can be happy all the time?
Oh God,
Like,
no.
No.
No. But I think, again, there's this funny idea that we hear about poor mental health, and I don't really know what that means. I think that mental health encompasses feeling happy and feeling really devastated and sad as well. It has to. Otherwise, how can we appreciate the really fantastic times? So, no, I think, and I don't think we should expect to feel happy.
I don't either.
I think it's a crock of shit that we're selling ourselves and our children. And for me, I used to tell my kids that there is a formula for happiness.
Yeah. What is it?
Well, it's that you need someone to love, something to do, something to look forward to, and something to read. And, that's it for me. If you've got something, if you've got love in your life and you've got something that you're anticipating and you're busy at the time and you've got a good book, that's it for me. That's my formula. I tweak it occasionally, but that's it.
I think that's great. And I do find this, like, my business is the Happiness Hive. And I recall some years ago, like I've consciously changed my life to be happy. And I remember some years ago, girlfriends, there was something devastating that happened in the world. And they were just like this whole doom and gloom, and it was like this conspiracy theory, and it was just like, and I'm just like, maybe, and I can't even remember the exact bits. And they said, Catherine, you just live in this bubble of blissful ignorance. And I went, I choose to see the world a certain way. But that doesn't mean that I don't get sad. It doesn't mean that I don't get angry. It doesn't mean that people don't piss me off or that I don't judge people. But I don't stay in that place for very long, Kate. I have my pity party. I have my days where it's just like, fuck, what am I doing? Like, it's all too hard, but I don't stay there very long. So I think that the tools that I've got help me to get out of the slump, if that makes sense.
So what's your number one tool? And this comes from someone who was once called Pollyanna by a good friend of mine who said that I'm just always sweetness and light, and that's not how I feel inside a lot of the time. How do you get out of it when you feel that?
What I've learned to do is to acknowledge it and allow it to happen. So if I'm feeling, sad, or if I'm feeling angry, I sit with that. And I just go, yep, it's okay to feel like that, because I've spent a lot of years growing up after Mum died, not acknowledging the emotions, saying that it's not okay to feel like that. So I would very much suppress the emotions, and mostly with food, I would suppress the emotions. But what I do now is I actually acknowledge and honour them and go, it's absolutely okay to feel like that. And then when I sort of sit with it, but what I then do is I go, why am I feeling like that? Why am I feeling pissed off with what that person said? What's that actually bringing up in me? And what's the trigger about? Because it's not about the other person, it's about something in me. So I sit with it and go, where's that coming from? And sometimes when you just said, what did you just say a second ago about growing up? You said it in our interview, when it's okay to celebrate. Sorry, I can't remember the specifics. But we grow up in our family that if you were successful, you were a poser. The 70s, you're a poser and you're a show-off. So some of the things in my life where I've gone, who am I to even be, running my own business? Who am I to be doing these certain things? After a lot of work, like self-coaching and coaching with others, a lot of it's come from that old story as to, if I'm successful, I'm a show-off. So that's an old patterning. That's something that I picked up as a younger person. So I've done some work to release that. So I sit with it and I go, where's that coming from? That's that old story that I've been telling myself, that if I'm successful, people are going to think I'm a poser. Okay, so that's an old story. What do I want to be thinking instead? So I go through this conscious process of, what do I want to think instead? Well, actually, it's completely okay for me to be successful. It's completely okay for me to be the person that I want to be. Okay, so what am I going to do to be that person? And it's changing my thinking there So to get out of my pity parties, it's a process that I go through. And sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's days of like, fucking give me an answer. Like, give me. But I have a lot of, I'm very connected to my, I will call it my inner guide, my intuition, my, and I know sometimes this gets a bit woo-woo for you, but I'm really connected to, to source. So I get a lot of guidance. I don't know if it's from within or from without or a bit of both that helps me to move through stuff. Sorry, that was a bit waffly, but yeah.
Yeah, kids, stop talking. It's about me. It's not about you. Huh? You have a very rich inner spiritual life that you tap into, as well as that emotional IQ that I love in you. Yeah, you've got a lot going on, lady.
Yeah. How do you move through it then? If you're having tough days, what do you do?
Yeah, it's funny because my tough days really plunge me into a dark place quite quickly. I still have some lingering PTSD from stuff that happened to me back when Jack was a baby. A lot of stuff around that. It's funny. So there is still that little crack, I think, in my psyche. So that, and I had it awful postnatal after baby number 3. And I tend to have that place that I go to really quickly where I go from being, the happiest person to thinking I'm going to go and jump off the bluff. I need to do that. It does get that bad. So it passes, but for me, it's the same thing of acknowledging that I've been here before. This is just a stage in time. This is going to pass. Is this reality what I'm thinking, or is it the black dog inside me hearing that? So I just make sure that I don't, I never medicate. I don't do anything like that. For me, it's just a case of sitting with it. Talking to beautiful friends and letting it pass. There's no magic cure. It's just about letting your body wash it away when it's ready.
Yeah. Do you know what one thing I have learned too is to talk about it, whereas our pattern in our family was not to talk about things. So I have girlfriends, family, but also I go and see my own kind of I was going to say therapists, but of sorts, different coaches, different modalities where, sometimes a Reese peanut butter cup is just what I need. So there's not a right. And for me, there's not one size fits all. And I think that's really important too, that for me, I've just because it works for me, it might not work for other people. I like to learn. And that's the reason for these podcasts, is just to hear how beautiful women do life, that there's pearls of wisdom in here that, others will pick up from. They will just hear the thing that they need to hear. And that's what brings me joy and happiness, is connecting with such beautiful people and hearing their stories and sharing their stories. It's not any more complicated than that.
Love it. And thank you for giving me the chance to crap on with you.
Oh, I love it to pieces. Just in finishing here, what's the best piece of advice you've been given? Have you got a?
I think it's the thing about salt water curing all ills.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Whether it's tears, sweat, or the ocean.
Yeah.
And also I think that there's only 2 things that you never regret in life. Having a baby and having a swim. So I don't know if that's advice or if it's just a truism that stuck with me, and that I think actually that's probably right. Everything else in life, it's on the scale of do I regret it? For me anyway, that's the way it always works out.
Yeah. Is that kind of a motto for you? Do you have overarching life mottos or anything? You've talked about some really cool principles and formulas and stuff. Do you have any?
Look, not really. It's just about being doing the right thing. Isn't that old-fashioned? Whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
And I also, I tell my kids this all the time, that I believe there is no such thing as decisions. ever. I think that you always know what it is that you're going to do, always.
Wow.
And we often confuse that by seeking advice from other people,
Yes.
going to outside sources, second guessing ourselves. Whereas for me, there just isn't. Like in my whole life, whether it be shoes, a house, men, friends, food, I love it instantly. I fall really hard and I stay in love forever. So if you don't love it instantly, it's not for you. You're not going to love it.
That's
so
cool.
Don't, whether it is, that navy dress that you try on that you think this would be really sensible, it would probably fill a hole in my wardrobe. If you do not love it, it's not for you.
No.
Leave it there for someone else. Leave it on the rack, whether it's a job opportunity, whether it's, whether it is someone who's come into your life, whatever it is.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got to love it instantly, and there's no such thing as decisions.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I really like that. Are there particular people who inspire you?
Oh, different people every day. And it's funny because in my career, I have met a ton of celebrities, international, Australian, Kim Kardashian, Sarah Jessica Parker, Viggo Mortensen, a ton of people over the decades, nearly 40 years now. And so everyone always will sit next to me at a party or whatever and say, who's the most interesting person you've ever met? And I think they expect that I'm going to say, oh, well, it was Kylie Minogue or whoever. But for me, it is always it's what we would call the everyday heroes, which are the people who come into your life who are not heralded necessarily, like you, my dear friend, who are doing their thing and doing it with grace and with courage and with style and with in their own vision, not looking to other people for inspiration, but trusting yourself. And so it's everyday beautiful girlfriends that I have who are my precious people, and my mama.
Do you know what? I love that too. And I there's so many people that inspire me, but it is the people I come into contact with on that everyday, just about how they do life. The people I'm chatting with in the podcast absolutely inspire me, and they all inspire me for different reasons. And it's just I think a lot of it is around that authenticity and just owning who you are. There's so many things there. Cool. Oh, beautiful. I think that has been just so lovely, and I'm so just loved as being in your presence and all your pearls of wisdom. So I hope our people watching this, that they get they'll get so many pearls of wisdom out of this, and they'll get to see the gorgeousness of who you are. So thank you very much, and doing it while you've got COVID as well. You would never know.
What a trooper.
You are such a superstar. I knew
Thanks
that.
for having
Love
me.
you to pieces.
Love you too.
See you, darling.
Bye. See ya. Bye.